weirdos.
Weird Science
Learned edition.
Weird Science is the
Learned
revolution.
edition.
Welcome, all you Quasar collectors, enemies of the fourth wall, and fans of Going Bottomless. It is time for your 114th Weird Dose of X. I am your rehydrating host, Jason, reporting today from the still just a bit hungover wing of Weird Science Tower. And joining me is the president of the Pacific Northwest chapter of the official Bunny Starlight Dreams fan club. It's my pal, Ruben. Hey, Ruben, how the heck are you today?
Doing good. I'm less hungover than you, I imagine.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing all right. So, yes, this past weekend I did go off to my annual post-Labor Day charity beer bash in the woods and mountains of New Hampshire. Had a really good time. Had lots of beers and meads and amazing food. And the people I go camping with, we say it's camping, but they do things like, oh, we're going to make some duck tacos for dinner. Like, okay, we're going to roast some lamb over an open fire and we're going to have that for dinner. So just incredible food, more meads than you can see anywhere else probably in the entire world. I must have tasted a dozen, 15, 20 different varieties of mead. It was really incredible. So, yeah, if you can hook up with any homebrewers around you folks, it works out pretty well. There's some good stuff out there. But yeah, I drove home yesterday, had to stop partway home and take a little nap in a rest area. I mean, it says rest area right on the sign, so I figured that was a good idea. And had some more naps yesterday afternoon when I got home, but yeah, having some nice green tea today, keeping it nice and mellow, but should be fine going through the rest of the week. You do anything exciting yourself this weekend?
We had a lot of picnics and sort of camp activities. Not camp activities, but just sort of outdoor gatherings.
Nice.
It was a surprisingly sunny weekend. I guess that's global warming. But yeah, we were just outside. Lots of inflatable bouncy houses, that kind of thing.
And we got rained on a little bit Saturday night, but not too bad. Okay, enough about that nonsense. On to some nonsense from Marvel. We have two books to talk about today. Well, we have the Infinity comic to talk about, 2 chapters of that since we skipped one last week. And we have Exceptional X-Men #1, which is the third and final member of what we're told is the triumvirate of flagship books of this new X era. So we'll see if we're going to agree that it should count as a flagship. Before that, I have a little bit of news to chat about. This is hot off the presses from today's X-Men Monday interview at Adventures in Poor Taste website. They have an interview with Murewa Ayodele, the writer of the upcoming Storm ongoing solo series. And so he gives us a few hints at what that title is going to be like. Overall, the feeling I get from reading the interview is it might be kind of along the lines of what we have in Phoenix, but set on Earth with a very powerful female lead rather than in space. Ayodele says that he wants to get into what it means for this character to really explore her goddess-level powers. He says when he was hired for the job, he was given certain parameters. So this was not his decision, these things. This is what he was handed by Tom Brevoort, etc. Storm is now an Avenger. She's to be based in Atlanta. I don't know why Atlanta specifically. I'm really curious, like, who decided, the Atlanta, that's the place to put Storm. I don't think she has any previous connection there that I can think of, unless I'm a dummy and not remembering.
I'm glad we're finally getting somebody who's not afraid to show Storm as a powerful character.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll find out. I'm trying to not prejudge. Other things he was handed, that she's to be involved in international politics. There are hints that she's running for Congress, but I think that might be a misdirect. We'll find out. And he was told her story should be largely set on Earth. So don't get all cosmic like the Phoenix, stick on Earth itself, which could be a little disappointing for those of us who are hoping for a little Mars or Rocco action. Ayodele specifically says, this is not going to be a book about Mars or Rocco stuff. If anybody else is going to do it, it's not going to be here in this book. Oh, well. So when he was asked for inspirations he had writing this book, he has kind of a list. He says that his storytelling sensibilities are inspired by classic Quasar comics. Now, Ruben, have you read any of the Quasar's books over the years?
No,
do you even know who Quasar is?
I am, yeah. He's got the something bands.
The quantum bands.
Quantum bands, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, one of your kind of standard Marvel teen characters, gets you a bunch of power, has some wacky cosmic sidekicks. It's kind of a fun book. It's from the 80s and into the 90s. The
I think he
Iredeli
died
says,
in Annihilation, so that's how I knew
okay.
it was a big
Is he
deal.
currently dead or is he back?
I
I
tell
haven't
you.
seen him in a long time, so he might still be dead. So that's the storytelling sensibility. But he says his, quote, storytelling approach, and I don't know how that's different, but that's what he says. His storytelling approach is inspired by the much more recent Venom run by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Also, the mood of his series is slightly inspired by Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force, and the overarching plot is inspired by a Fantastic Four issue written by Dwayne McDuffie. So put all those together. Oh, we're not done yet. Iredeli says that some other subplots have been inspired by, along with prior Storm comics, also anime like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Mew Mew Power. I don't know that one, but I Googled it and I think I'm on a list now. And also Full Metal Alchemist.
All right.
So what he's saying, I think, is that if you like anything in that list of very, very popular franchises, he thinks you should be buying his comic book. And who can blame him? He's trying to sell his book. Good for him.
Yeah,
We're going to check it out.
that's pretty funny.
I don't know that I know much more about the book now, having read it, but he has good taste in other books and other anime, so could be fun. So how does that make you feel about this Storm series coming out in early October? More excited, less excited, about the same?
About the same. I'm very apprehensive whenever I hear Storm's in a book, but she has a cool power set.
She does. I hope that we get some limitations, some struggles. I think it'd be very tempting to take a powerful character and just make them just so overpowering that they don't face any real obstacles. So I hope that he manages to deal with that problem. Oh, one more thing. Somebody asked him about are there going to be any supporting cast members of this book? And Iredeli says that in the first 5 issues, she's going to be kind of traveling all over the world, won't really have any recurring other cast members. But in the next 5 issues, the big supporting character will definitely be Maggot.
God.
He thinks that Maggot will be a great companion for Storm. Maggot is also a character with an African background. I think Maggot's from South Africa.
Okay.
So this writer being from Africa, Storm having African connections, maybe that'll be something interesting. So all you Maggot fans out there, be sure to pre-order Storm issues 6 through 10. And I am glad that he's thinking long term. This is supposed to be an ongoing book, so I hope it's great and I hope it lasts a long, long time. Okay, moving on to actual books from last week and this week, we're going to talk about X-Men From the Ashes Infinity Comic, chapters 13 and 14, which are In Dreams, parts 1 and 2. And it is only a 2-part series, so this is the whole Magneto story. It's written by Alex Pactadel, art by Diogenes Neves, colors by Arthur Hesley, and letters by Clayton Coles. Yeah, this is a Magneto story. It's set in Merle, Alaska, when this group of X-Men is living in the factory. I couldn't quite tell if this is happening before or after, like the start of the current X-Men #1 series. Does it matter? Could you tell at all? Any guesses?
It felt like it must have been slightly before, but it wasn't totally clear to me, the timing for the issue.
Yeah, it's happening off to the
timing mattered
side.
so much.
Probably not. So Magneto is in the same physical state that we've been seeing him in From the Ashes, looking surprisingly old and always using a chair of some kind. And he seemed to have zero access to any Master of Magnetism powers. And we don't learn anything about how we got from the young, healthy, sexiest self Magneto at the end of, Fall of the House of X to where we are now. And I guess writer Alex Pactadel was getting a lot of questions about that because he took to Twitter to say that Magneto's physical condition will be explained in the pages of Jed McKay's X-Men book. He didn't say when, but he did kind of say, yeah, I'm not allowed to tell you, so it's not going to be in my Infinity Series comic. So the chapter begins with Magneto talking to himself and quoting the book of Deuteronomy from a speech made by Moses to the people. And that's really what this whole story is about, a very direct, not so subtle analogy of Magneto to Moses, a leader of his people who never himself gets to see the promised land. So Magneto, or Max, heads into town. He was going to go in his full Magneto getup, helmet, purple suit, floating chair, all of it. But Beast bounces in to suggest that, hey, maybe tone it down a little, Max. I do really like the way that Neves draws Beast's motion here. It looks very rubbery, effortlessly acrobatic. Not at all how Beast would have acted in the Krakoan era, but that's fine because this is intentionally a different kind of Beast. So Magneto takes Beast's advice and dresses more like a regular person, and is now using what looks like a standard wheelchair, not even a powered or electric one. But he's wheeling it through the snow? And I've never used a wheelchair myself, but I don't think this one shown would work at all in the snow. For some reason, this bothered me. It just looks like it would be slipping all over the place. Also, he's wearing a purple suit, like a regular human suit, just in purple. And instead of his Magneto helmet, he's wearing a kippa or yarmulke, one of these small circular hats that Jewish men often wear. I can't remember seeing Magneto wearing a yarmulke before, but this story continues to lean very hard into Magneto's Jewish heritage and the whole analogy of that with being a mutant. So Magneto was in town to visit a temple and its leader, Rabbi Rachel Sagan. They talk for a little while, and the whole analogy, Magneto to Moses, is kind of hit again. Magneto speaks of all these times he thought he had made it to the Promised Land, only to have it taken away because that's how Big Two shared universe comics work, right? Everything's got to go in a circle. He can never get to a final victory because there's always going to be another writer, another series, another comic. It's kind of part of what it means to be a character in a comic book. The rabbi gently suggests to Magneto that he has a pride problem, that his belief that the only way his people, here meaning mutants, could possibly get to the Promised Land has got to be through him. Magneto gets annoyed by this, leaves the temple, and is immediately basically hit by a car. The car skids out of control through the snow. Magneto leaps out of the wheelchair a split second before the chair is crushed by the car. That's the end of Chapter 13. In Chapter 14, it starts with a childhood flashback of Magneto and his father facing a Nazi firing squad. Now, I think that the current status of Magneto continuity, which is famously complicated, but I think currently it's still true that his father died in this incident, and that Magneto, Max, was saved by his dad pushing him out of the line of fire at the last instant. Is that your understanding too? It's after this that Magneto, Max, gets sent to a concentration camp, and that's when his powers appear. But in this bit here, it seems to suggest that young Max used magnetic powers to save his family, but I guess this is just, a flashback, a dream, a hallucination, so this could be what Magneto wants to think could have happened, even though it didn't. So don't get confused. Magneto did not save his dad here, unfortunately. It's just how he's kind of hallucinating. Okay, we cut back to physical reality there in Alaska, the car accident. The car's in flames, the driver is unconscious, and there's a young girl stuck in the passenger seat. Magneto is there, but he's powerless to help. No magnetic powers, not even kind of standard, regular human physical powers to assist the girl getting out of the car. There's two other people seemingly able-bodied right there, but I guess they're just too scared of the fire to go help the kid. I felt that these people should have been helping out. They kind of come and go from the art. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Did you think we should be blaming these two people, or were they acting reasonably? As I pause for some rehydrating tea.
Yeah, they mentioned that they felt like the car was going to explode at any moment, but they're not particularly heroic. Yeah, they probably should have tried to intervene if they could.
Yeah, not particularly heroic. That's a very kind way of putting it, I think. So Magneto, all he can do is use words to encourage the kid to take a chunk of broken windshield glass and cut her way out of her stuck seatbelt. I don't think that would work. I get what Packnadell's trying to get through here, that the kid has to go through something painful to make an escape. Again, analogy with Magneto did. Also, not a great advertisement here for seatbelts. Seatbelts don't really... People think that you get stuck in a seatbelt and can't get out of a flaming car, but really, seatbelts are going to save your lives, 999 times for every one time that it caused you a problem. So don't take advice from a comic book. Wear your dang seatbelts. So at the end, the kid does get out, and the fire department arrives to save the dad, and at the end of the story, everybody's just fine. Kid, dad, Magneto, everybody. So I guess it didn't, in the end, really matter that the kid was able to crawl out of the car because 2 seconds later, the fire department would get her anyway? I guess they didn't want to write it that the kid's dad died. That's the other way to go, right? That the only reason this kid survived is because she listened to Magneto. Otherwise, she would have died.
Well, she avoided getting terrible scars from being burned, right?
I guess she could have been burned, even just in that couple seconds that she saved herself. Certainly horrible things could happen. That's a good point.
Maybe this fire was more on the right side of the car.
Could be. The art here, the art here isn't bad, but it doesn't do anything interesting with the vertical format the way I kind of liked the Omega Red series did. It's perfectly acceptable. It works fine. Again, especially if you're reading it on your phone, like I think most people are going to.
Having taken place after the first issue of X-Men, right?
Why
Because after this point, everybody would know that Magneto doesn't have his powers, and yet he was really intimidating to them when they were visiting the
I guess it
Alaska
depends
facility.
how news spreads from that little Alaska town.
Yeah, I feel like it's a small town.
Interesting.
Everybody's
Okay,
going to
I like
know
it.
that.
So there in the hospital where Magneto's getting treated, the rabbi drops in again to share one more Holocaust story. This one of how her own grandmother escaped from occupied France to be adopted in New York and eventually moved to Alaska. Now, the historical person that the rabbi mentions here is real. Her name was, and it's a French name, I apologize for getting the name wrong, it's something like André Solomon. She was a real woman who helped about 1,000 Jewish kids escape from concentration camps and get the heck out of occupied France. So that is for real. And finally, we get a brief epilogue back at the factory that hints at what's up with Magneto. Beast says, I have to sequence your genome again. The degradation of your telomeres is accelerating at an alarming rate. Now, telomeres are a real thing.
Learned edition.
They're bits at the end of chromosomes. They don't encode any genetic traits. It's not like your hair color or height or anything is in the telomeres. They're like kind of like bumpers. They protect the chromosomes. They're involved, I think, somehow in the reproduction and copying of the chromosomes. So they're really important. And it is true that shrinking telomeres is something associated with aging. So if Magneto's telomeres are degrading, he's looking super old, that all kind of hangs together. We don't know why, if this has to do with the weird way he was brought back to life as his sexiest self, but now he's getting old really, really quick. We'll have to see where that goes, and I guess we're going to learn about that in the pages of Adjectiveless X-Men by McKay. So while that very last bit was intriguing, overall, I didn't really care for this two-part story. The way it made use of such super, super serious historical material felt a little gratuitous, a little unearned. We're in a comic book about a master of magnetism and a big furry blue guy who can do science, right? I know that connection of Magneto's childhood to the Holocaust is an established thing, but it can be used well or not so well. And here, I didn't think that Pagnadell really pulled it off. It didn't feel like, oh, we're getting something powerful and meaningful from using it. I don't know that we learned anything about Magneto's character we didn't already know. So yeah, I didn't like this one so much. I'd suggest, you probably have anyway, so maybe read it, but you don't need to read these two chapters. You'll find out more about Magneto in X-Men. And next up in the Infinity comic, we're going to be visiting Beast. So that could be a lot of fun. Learn what's up with this newly rebooted version of this older Beast here in this new continuity. So what did you think overall of this story, Ruben?
I thought it was okay. It was just kind of a quick filler story, but it did show a bit about what might be going on with Magneto, which I thought was slightly more interesting than what we got with Omega Red. So it's definitely skippable, but I don't know. I think it was all right. Maybe like a 6 for me.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that if you're going to use like the literal Holocaust in a book, it should be for something really big and important and serious. And I don't think, like you say, this felt like a filler comic. I thought that reaching for history for a filler comic was kind of uncomfortable, not so great. But moving on to something we hope is great, and that is Exceptional X-Men #1, written by Eve L. Ewing, art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, letters by Joe Sabino. So Exceptional X-Men #1 gets off to a strange start. It's practically a Kitty Pryde solo book, though at the end we get some hints of strongly where it's going to be going. But right now, this one, if you just took this one issue and wrote Kitty Pryde #1 on the cover, that would seem perfectly correct. Throughout it, Kitty talks to us about her mundane life and struggles, mostly through standard narration boxes, but on more than one occasion, Eve Ewing has Kitty go full She-Hulk, turning towards the camera, breaking that fourth wall, and addressing us directly. Like, maybe the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, is she just talking to herself? I talk to myself sometimes, but it's often enough and just directly at the camera so much that I think it is supposed to be a She-Hulk kind of thing. Did you get that feeling too, or am I reading too much into this?
think it's probably right. There definitely was some fourth wall breaking moments.
Okay. So, and really between the fourth wall breaking, the art style, and the subject matter, more than anything else, this book reminds me of Rainbow Rowell's She-Hulk run. So if you love that book, which it came back in multiple incarnations there in a row. It kept getting, I don't know, it was canceled and rebooted or just relaunched under a new title. If you love that book, Exceptional X-Men might be for you. Okay, so let's take a run through the plot. It takes place in 3 chunks. In the first chunk, we get a picture of Kitty's new normal life. In the second, Kitty tries to go on a date to a concert. And in the third, we deal with the aftermath of that failed date. Plus a couple of short codas dropping in on other characters who we will see in this book going forward. Okay, chunk 1, Kitty's normal life. Now, before Kitty's mutant power ever manifested, she was just a kid living in the town of Deerfield, Illinois, north of Chicago. Now, after everything that happened in Krakoa, Kitty has moved back near her old stomping grounds, this time to Chicago itself, specifically the Bridgeport neighborhood. I don't know Chicago much myself, but Google Maps tells me this is on the south side of Chicago, adjacent to the park where the White Sox play baseball. So, hey, that's a good place to visit. Kitty shares an apartment with her childhood friend Pretty and Pretty's corgi. Kitty works as a bartender / maybe general manager at Lulu's Tavern, where bottomless mimosa brunches are the bane of her existence. Now, I'm going to pause here to note that this is the first of 2 splash pages in this issue that both feature a whole lot of food. And I'm curious if that's Eve Ewing kind of having a food thing going on, if that's the artist really into drawing food, but it is notable. So in this one here, we're looking at Lulu's Tavern, and the bar is a mess. We have piles of dirty dishes stacked right next to where food is being prepared. All the drinks are spilling as they're being poured. Spilled champagne, I think, is dripping into maybe where the ice is kept for new drinks. It's really gross. So I don't know what their prices and service and food are like, but I would give Lulu's a very bad Yelp review and maybe call the health inspector on them. Not good. This is a really frightfully looking place. What's going on here? What are we supposed to learn from this picture?
Do you guys have those health ratings where they post them in the stores?
No, I've seen that in New York City, though. The restaurants there always have a big, A, B, or C usually posted.
Yeah, we have a rating system in Seattle for cleanliness. I think
sure.
It's okay, it's the worst one. And then there's excellent is the top one. But
okay.
You pretty much can tell, if it says okay, it's a pretty dirty dump.
New York City's all letter grades.
They're definitely getting something like that. For as much as she's talking about just wanting to work a lot, apparently she's not doing a good job.
A friend of mine from Jersey who he's Taiwanese and also just really into great food. He knows the best restaurant for any kind of food you could possibly think of in the area. And he also says, this is just him speaking, don't have the background here to say, he said if you want a really good Chinese restaurant in New York, you want to look for about a B rating. He says the A ratings, it's probably more about, appearance and looks, and the C ratings, those get a little sketchy, but right there he says B is that's the key place to aim. So I don't know if that's true, but it could be useful. Okay, moving on from this disgusting restaurant. We also get a touch of the old hated and feared shtick, with baseline humans not being so comfortable around mutants. Very standard issue. We've kind of seen in all the books. Everybody's saying, I don't mind mutants. I just don't want to live next to them, that sort of thing. And there is an attempt at continuity between books. We always like that. Kitty sees a news report about the events of X-Men #2 that happened in San Francisco. So I get the feeling that in there, I forget if it's a Slack or a Discord or whatever, that this San Francisco incident is what everyone's going to refer to remind us that we're in a shared universe, which is fine. So that's the end of chunk number 1. Now we transition to chunk number 2, date time. The whole date thing is very underbaked. We aren't even given a name for Kitty's putative date, because we learn super quickly that Kitty is a total idiot. The date is not tonight, it's tomorrow night. Now I'm a pretty forgetful guy sometimes, Ruben. I gotta write all my stuff down, but if I had a date for the first time in a while, I don't think I'd get my times and dates mixed up. That's just me. I guess maybe Kitty's priorities are different. And Kitty can't even take off tomorrow night for the real date. Plus, the band that she wanted to see on the date isn't playing until tomorrow night either. Tonight's concert is by Bunny Starlight Dreams, whose fan base seems to be mostly early teen kind of girls. I don't know if this band is a stand-in for any real band. If it is, I'm too old and out of touch to get the reference. The aesthetic is a lot like the Adventure Time cartoon. Bright clashing colors and patterns, random animal elements, that sort of thing. You have any conception of what this might be referring to other than, yeah, it's for young kids?
No, I didn't. I'm not really dialed into that kind of music.
I'll have to ask my own teenagers. They're probably too old for it too, because these really seem like 14, 15-year-old kind of age group here.
Yeah.
So we focus on one kid. Her name is Trista Marshall, and she is going to be a main character in this book. Trista has a ticket for the concert, and is clearly a big fan, but the bouncer or security guy will not let her in. And it's not clear from the art, but is this just an anti-mutant thing? Why is the bouncer telling this ticketed customer, you can't go into the concert with your friends? Can you tell?
Yeah, I think it was just a mutant thing. I'm not sure how they know she's a mutant at this point, but
right.
It seems to be that. Or they're just a terrible racist. That's also a possibility. I guess if it's a mutant thing, it's the same issue.
Could be. I mean, it's outdoors and funny lighting, so she is apparently African American. The bouncer himself, I feel weird trying to diagnose everybody's race, but I guess if we're going to talk about racism, that's what we're doing. I guess her eyes kind of have yellow in the background where it should be white. Is that what makes him think she's a mutant? That's the only thing I can see because, yeah, she's dressed kind of freakishly, but everybody in line is dressed just as freakishly for this band. So I don't know. I would have liked something more right here just to say, why is this why is this bouncer giving her a hard time? Also, she's there with two friends, and these two friends, they're not gems, put it that much. They say, oh, okay, sorry, concert started, we're going in, catch you later. No help at all, no support.
I hate to say this. This happened where I was the friends.
Oh, no. And you abandoned your mutant behind you?
Yeah, no, I had a buddy who he had gotten a driver's license update. This is in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he had the paper driver's license while he was waiting for the permanent one to be issued.
Right.
And he couldn't get into the bar because they wouldn't accept it. We were just like, yeah, we're not missing the show. So he went home sad, and we had a wonderful time.
Oh, I had that problem when I graduated a year before my wife, and I went back for her graduation. We went together to buy a bottle of wine to celebrate. We're both 21, 22 years old at this point, and I had renewed my New Jersey driver's license by mail because I wasn't living at home at that point, and the renewed one by mail doesn't have a photograph on it. So I would keep my old expired ID with a photograph, and I used that when people would card me, and that was usually fine. And this one time, the lady at the liquor store said, oh, I'm sorry, this is expired. I said, no problem, I have this other one. And you got to kind of put them together, the expired one with a photograph, the unexpired one without a photograph, but no good. We had to actually go to another liquor store, and my wife had to use her ID to buy her own celebratory bottle of wine. Oh, well, so whatever it is, the friends go inside, Trista is stuck outside, and the confrontation with the security guy escalates very quickly. He tells Trista to get moving. She doesn't. He says it again and gives her a little push. So he does make the first physical contact here. Trista does not deal very well with being pushed. She goes freaking nuts. Her skin turns metallic. She grows, I guess we're going to call them tentacles, 2 spring from each arm. She has some level of super strength because she grabs security guy, tosses him a good 15, 20 feet. Kitty's right there, doesn't want to step in, doesn't want to get involved, starts to walk away, but she's drawn back only when she hears a gunshot. Yes, the crack security team here at the Young Teen concert are all packing heat, and they're not afraid to use it. There's a crowd of people around. This is crazy. Maybe this is Chicago. I don't know Chicago. Maybe this is how things work there, but just the casual use of guns all over this comic is nuts to me. Maybe it's the Marvel world. It's a more dangerous place.
Yeah, let's say it's Marvel world. You just had, crazy ass mutants do some stuff, plus the Orcus fight, right? Mm-hmm. It's like every other Sunday there's a disaster, wrecking the city.
I'd buy that more if it was like some sort of high-tech comic book stun gun sort of a thing. But these appear to be just, plain old handguns that everyone in the whole place inside, like, walking around on the dance floor with their guns drawn. It's wild. So we don't see the gunshot. It happened off panel. So we don't know if the shot missed, or maybe Trista could be bulletproof. I don't know. She's immune. She's got bronze skin. He's about to shoot her again, and now Kitty steps in, making herself and Trista intangible only an instant before the bullet passes through Trista's forehead. Yikes. Shooting a kid in the head that's a choice. That's really something. So now it's a chase through the venue.
These bouncers.
I know. I would not. I mean, I think the Rolling Stones would say these bouncers got a little rough, if you know that history. So now it's a chase through the venue. It's the Hells Angels they hired, right? Was it the Hells Angels they hired?
Yeah. I'm liking it. We need to get an official name for this bouncer crew.
What are you?
I'm just happy.
Limbo's Angels. That's what.
Yeah, I'm just happy this isn't a Dazzler concert. So
that's fine. We'll be fine.
Viewing gets some points just for that.
It's not. Who's the other one we always get? The other Marvel mutant rock star, Lila Cheney.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's the other one. So neither of them. Yeah. This is. I mean, I don't know if these people are mutants or they just wacky teenagers. Probably the same. Okay,
and I also kind of liked. I guess I'm catching up. I needed more coffee this morning, but I also sort of liked that Kitty was like, I don't know if that concert's for me, right? She recognizes that there's like a generational thing. Mm-hmm. But then she's like, maybe I'll check it out anyways.
Yeah, what the hell? It's her only night off. She's here anyway. Might as well see what these kids are into. And I think she could do that. I think if I tried to walk into a concert that was mostly, young teen girls, I'd feel a little more self-conscious. But, she's Kitty Pryde. She can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a guy-girl thing, too. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I probably can't do that either. I'd be like, what the hell's this creeper doing?
Yeah, just like
I'm here for the music. I'm here for the music.
Yeah, what I Google, was that anime he said? Mew Mew somebody? I don't know the Mew Mew anime. I don't know that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're starting to go on this chase through the venue. The show has started. They're not about to stop it just because a security guard puts a bullet through a kid's head right outside. We sold tickets here. Nobody else seems to care, but Kitty is trying to get Trista off to safety. I would think Kitty could just pick a direction and just phase directly, out of town. But we have to have a little more complication here because, we've got a lot of pages in this comic book. They wind up in a control room where once again they're confronted by at least 3 heavily armed security guards. Kitty, again, instead of just phasing away, she kind of wrestles the gun away from them and points the gun at the other security guards while has Trista cowering under a table. You're Kitty Pryde. You can just pass directly through and, don't have to do this.
I kind of didn't understand this part. I was just like, just stay phased out, just keep walking, right? Like, you don't have to engage with these people.
I think we just need to have an action scene, and this is the only action scene in the book. So eventually, after passing through, I think it's a butcher shop and then a library. Okay.
I'll say the security guards are kind of lucky, right? Because Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, just 2 months ago would have
oh my God, yeah. When she was in ninja mode, she would have just murdered them all and strangled them with each other's intestines. She's trying to be more peaceful these days.
Yeah. So maybe that's what happened. Maybe she kind of had this moment where she was
flashback.
Just about to do it, and then she's like, what the hell am I doing?
Gonna fall off the wagon. She went to the bar, ordered the drink, but didn't drink it. Okay.
Yeah.
They make their way eventually back to Kitty's car. And Kitty's going to drive Trista back home a couple hours earlier than she expected, I guess. And along the way, I learn that I do not care for this new character, Trista. She's like Ron Burgundy. She's in a glass case of emotion. She just goes from screaming in embarrassment to fangirling about Kitty in 2 seconds flat. I can't tell how old Trista's supposed to be. Again, I think partially because she's dressed so funny. How old do you think she is?
Yeah, I'm going to say like 13, 14.
That seems awful young to be sent out into Chicago to go to a concert with just her own 13-year-old friends. She acts very young.
Well, you know what? I think that's a big city thing, man. I was going to concerts at 14.
Okay. I was in suburbia, and I certainly was not.
Yeah.
And we find out she lives with her grandmother, and her grandmother works, so it could be there's not as much supervision around. But I don't know how old she is because she's dressed very young for this, wacky concert get-up. She acts very young, but I was thinking she might be more like 16.
Yeah. Well,
I
what
don't
is
know.
kind
We'll
of
have to find
strange
out.
is, based on her age, I would have thought there would be like parents picking her up or something, right? Some kind of chaperoning thing going on, but I don't know. Maybe she's playing hooky. She's staying over at her friend's house.
Her parents don't seem to be around. She seems to live just with her grandmother, so it could be just a family situation thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more.
I agree with you. I think she's kind of obnoxious and annoying, but I kind of did like her in the sense that like she's just really raw young mutants, not really comfortable with their power set.
A very classic X-Men kind of a trope, the teenager who has powers and doesn't know how to use them. We're kind of seeing that in a couple books, so I'm curious which way, if the books are going to be going the same direction with these young mutants, like we have that whole group of new ones in Uncanny X-Men. We have this going on here. I hope the books don't get too samey in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, she's kind of a Kitty Pryde herself, right? When we first saw Kitty, this is kind of... Kitty was, the original Kitty was less annoying than this, but it was the same sort of experience level.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to learn more about Trista. Her X-Men name is going to be Bronze. Maybe she has some other characteristics or background that kind of explains why she acts the way she does. But in issue number 1, did not care for her. So Ewing has Kitty show Trista her ID, which I guess has a photo and address right on it. It feels like it's supposed to be a big moment here when Kitty tells Trista to call her Kitty. Some of us have been calling her Kitty all along. Oh well. So the next day, Kitty wakes up.
It didn't work out. I guess she's distancing herself from that.
I guess her at work and her friend are still calling her Kate, but she tells, I guess maybe like you say, she sees her younger self in this kid. So I think that could be why she says, hey, call me Kitty. Because this is like, the mutant X-Men side of her is Kitty, and maybe this Kate persona she's trying to keep separate as the, normal, everyday kind of person version of herself.
Yeah. And in reality, they're like, you're 28. You're not a Kitty anymore. I don't know what her continuity age is, but I would kind of laugh.
My wife works with
really
somebody
young.
Who's, a working professional, in her 30s and still goes by Kitty. So, I mean, I guess there's other people use... I have seen arguments about this online is what I'm getting at. Some people say, yeah, she can't be Kitty anymore. Kitty's this little kid name, but it varies. So, the next day, Kitty wakes up and Trista, super enthusiastic, has already dropped off a present for her. Maybe Kitty sleeps in, but I don't know how Trista had time to put this excessively wrapped and decorated package of confetti and nonsense together and deliver it to Kitty's house so quickly. I mean, we saw that Trista lives kind of off to the west of the city. I don't know if she used public transportation to get in. It seems super enthusiastic, super quick for having this whole thing made. So when Kitty pulls on the ribbon, the whole thing bursts open and confetti and glitter just go everywhere. As a parent, that made me cringe because I know you can't clean up glitter. You can't vacuum glitter. It is now a permanent part. It's in your couch for years. It's in your floors.
Yeah.
So
she's definitely showing up to work with glitter on her face.
Oh, yeah.
And
Kitty
they'll be
will
like,
be
okay,
remembering
you
Trista forever, no matter what, just because of the glitter. But Kitty is touched by the gesture. It brings a tear to her eye, or maybe that's just glitter shrapnel, but either one way or another, she definitely has a tear brought to her eye. And Kitty does wear the childish, smiley star and rainbow earrings from the package to work that day.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that was sweet.
That was all right.
Yeah.
That's where we get the end of this book. And then we turn the page and get an LOLJK. Yeah, I didn't really care for that tone, but fine, whatever. And here is the second food-focused splash page of the issue. This one much fancier and with far fewer health code violations. You think this is a mansion or is it a very fancy hotel? Could be either, I think.
Yeah, unsure.
So we have a staff of servants or hotel employees attempting to deliver an incredible spread of food to the room of Emma Frost. I see champagne, berries, vegetable and fruit platters, a cake, also a tray of Parisian macarons, which, much like the ones I made myself for my weekend adventure. No location listed, so whether this is in Chicago or New York or somewhere else, we can't tell. Emma's inside the room, keeping the staff waiting, lounging around in her sexy bathrobe and fluffy high heel slippers, which, coincidentally, is how I'm dressed right now. This room is a wreck. It looks like Van Halen stayed there with, empty champagne bottles, furniture scattered, bedding all over the place. Emma going through a mental list. She doesn't say what the list is for, but it would seem that maybe she's looking for a partner to do another, I don't know if it's a mutant school or helping young mutant kids. That's kind of what Emma does. Hasn't always gone well for her, but it's kind of become her thing. So names she considers and rejects are Banshee, who's been a co-headmaster with her before, Storm, Wolverine, Nightcrawler. She thinks about Bishop, says, maybe he's in the maybe category. Okay. And then she settles on the name of Kitty Pryde. We cut away to see Kitty at work, fixing the ice machine again, probably from all the champagne she spills on it. And Kitty gets a sudden painful headache, which is a thing that happened to Kitty before her mutant powers woke up. So clearly this is Emma reaching out to Kitty's mind somehow. So I'm wondering if this is like Emma checking in on all these various characters and seeing what they're up to and thinking, Kitty Pryde, maybe that'll be my new, partner in whatever I'm up to.
I think that's what was going on here. The only thing that I thought was a little bizarre was that Kitty has had a long relationship with Emma, and you would think that she would recognize that, Emma's checking in on me. And instead she's sort of just like, huh? That's weird, right?
An excellent point. Yeah, we cut away from Kitty really quickly, so if she does recognize it, we don't get to see it. But yeah, that is kind of strange. So Emma and Kitty, they have a long, long history together, going all the way back to when Kitty was brand new and Emma tried to recruit her away from Xavier to go to Emma's own school, all the way up through the Krakoan era where they were like the White Queen and the Red Queen of the Hellfire Trading Company. So they've been paired up a whole lot. I'm kind of surprised to see them paired up again. It seems kind of like a been there, done that sort of thing, but maybe Eve Ewing has a fresh take. And because this is a From the Ashes #1, we're not quite done yet. We do have a bonus page. The bonus page is mostly a close-up of a phone screen. There's a text message notification up top that reads, "Let us know as soon as you locate her." We don't know who this is from or necessarily who it's about, but it's got to be about finding Kitty, right? At least that's what we're supposed to think, whether it's going to be, a misdirect or not. We're supposed to think somebody's looking for Kitty. Also on the screen is an ad for an app called Verite. Now, Verite, I had to look this one up.
Learned edition.
It's the Latin second-person imperative for the word truth. So it's kind of like saying, hey, you, tell me the truth. Maybe connected to that conspiracy group, the Truth Seekers. Although this is a different feel to it. This is very upscale, personal wellness kind of focus, where the Truth Seekers are much more, conspiracy theory kind of a thing. The text of the ad says, Verite is a new app that uses your DNA to design custom lifestyle solutions fit for you and you alone. So already pretty creepy. And at the bottom, in the small print, it says that using the service means entering into a, quote, irrevocable genetic data sharing. I'm going to try that again. Irrevocable genetic data sharing agreement with the company. And we also learned that the offer is void in North Dakota. I don't know if that really means anything or just a joke, but it made me laugh. I thought that was funny. I don't know what it is about North Dakota and this app that don't go together, but pretty good. And then the smaller second panel of the bonus page, we see that this phone is in the hand of Bobby Drake, Iceman, and he's in an airport about to fly into Chicago. So on the day this issue was released, Marvel did confirm that starting in issue 4, Iceman will be added to the main cast of this series. Now, Tom,
which makes sense. She's good friends with Kitty, so I totally
that works for sure. Tom Brevoort had been hinting that Iceman would be popping up somewhere. I guess they wanted to keep it secret. So if you're wondering where Iceman was going to be, it's going to be here in the pages of Exceptional X-Men.
And we haven't really seen an explanation of him being back permanently, right?
Right. Last we saw, he was still he had put himself back together from being dissipated into the atmosphere. His boyfriend had already got another boyfriend. There was some notes left on a mirror, I think was the last thing we saw. So he was still kind of like almost like a ghost or a phantom. He was out there somewhere, but we didn't really know what he was up to. So overall, this is pretty aggressively not my kind of book. Like I said at the beginning, if you loved Rainbow Rowell's She-Hulk, you're probably going to love this book too. I didn't love that book, and I don't love this book. They have similar themes, similar storytelling methods, similar feel to the art. But yeah, I didn't really have much to care about here. I don't really care about Kitty Pryde's work and romantic troubles. I don't like the new character yet very much. I'm going to try to keep an open mind that I'll like this more going forward. I definitely like Emma. We loved her in the Iron Man book. So if they can keep that level of writing of Emma going forward, that could be exciting. But yeah, she only appears in the one page of this issue. So if I'm going to judge this one page, I really can't go above let me be optimistic and call it a 6 out of 10. It's actually higher than what I had written down, but I should be more positive. How about you, Ruben? Am I being too negative on this? Tell me what else is great about this book that I missed.
Yeah, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to go 7.8.
7.8. Wow.
And I think that'll blow the mind of a lot of people in the Get Fresh crew. A lot of people were very critical of this, and I think Gabe said, he doesn't see this lasting, more than 10 issues, which, it could get there, but, we were warned that this was going to be a slow burn to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Character driven to get started. And
it would have to go really badly for Marvel to call it one of their flagship books and then to cancel it so quickly. So I think maybe just because of that, they're going to have to give it a longer leash.
Yeah. I thought the interpersonal moments were sort of entertaining, and not as heavy-handed as I expected. And I don't have much experience with this e-viewing person, or any experience, so I don't have any sort of preconceived notions about this book going nowhere, right?
She wrote that Iron Man adjacent series. What was that character's name?
Ironheart.
Ironheart, yeah. I think that was...
So in any event, I have no opinion of her as a writer, but having read this story, I was like, that's kind of funny. I mean, we know Kitty Pryde has some issues, right? And she kind of stormed off at the very end of the Fall of House of X, or maybe it was
right. She had that kind of breakdown moment where she was with Logan, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do this anymore." And Logan kind of took the mantle of violence away from her, so she clearly wants to get away from the whole violent persona that she had to slip into at the end of Fall of the House of X.
Yeah. So I appreciated that this was sort of a continuation of that, and yet we see her kind of getting pulled back into the X-type machinations as much as she wants to stay away from them. And with the, we know that Emma's part of this team, quote unquote, but just seeing Emma just being kind of the instigator, being like, I'm bored, let's see who's around and who's available, like who can I mess with? And then she's like, oh, Kate Pryde, let's ruin your life by making you get back into the X-Men stuff. I kind of enjoyed that. Okay.
Yeah, I think this book is really going to hinge on these brand new characters. It's going to, on the cover of this issue, we see, is it 3 or 4? Four new young mutant characters, or at least 3. I guess that's actually Kitty there. So I don't like Bronze so much so far, but there's going to be 2 others, so we haven't really met yet. One of them's on the cover of issue 2. So if I like these new kids, that could save the book for me. But if I don't, then I'm not really seeing anything keeping me here so much.
Fair. The other thing I liked about this is, for me, it feels like world building for the broader, like, Marvel mutant side of things. Because we're in Chicago and we get to see kind of like what average people are thinking about what just happened with Orcus and the mutants and Krakoa being gone.
I do like that geographically From the Ashes is branching out, right? We have some things taking place in New Orleans or Louisiana. We have things taking place here in Chicago. So it's nice to be out of New York City a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to have stuff in New York, but just to make this feel bigger, right? Like, this feels like a national thing. We've been to San Francisco. It's just nice in my mind to see that, hey, America's a big place. It's not just New York centric like it usually is for Marvel stuff.
All right. So that is our take on Exceptional X-Men #1. Ruben a little higher on it than I am, and we'll definitely be checking out issue #2 when that comes out, and we'll tell you what we think of that. But before that, coming up next week, we have 2 books plus the Infinity comic. We have Wolverine #1, in which Saladin Ahmed takes a crack at writing Logan, and I think Logan's going to be running around in the wilds of, America's hat there. He's going to be up in Canada doing some Canada snow stuff. And we also have Uncanny X-Men #2, what happens after those wacky new kids and one horse show up.
My favorite
we also
character.
know there's going to be a phone call, and they're going to need to mess with the Grey Malkin prison, because we learned about that in X-Men #3. But exactly how we get there, I'm curious to find out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of back on the horse. I guess that's a good...
not the same horse as an Uncanny X-Men, the metaphorical horse.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on and see what's going on, and I do want to see, X-Men and Uncanny kind of going back and forth and advancing
I
the
find
story.
myself really up and down week to week. You know, I had that one issue of X-Men I didn't like, and then issue number 3 comes out. I was back on board, and then this week, Exceptional X-Men wasn't to my taste. So, you know, I'm kind of taking it week by week, and I hope it gets better rather than worse. So on that note, Ruben, what should our loyal listeners do to keep themselves occupied until our next episode comes out?
And read more X-Men comics.
You are all weirdos.
Weird Science is the
Learned it
revolution.
edition.
Weird Science is the revolution.
Learned it edition.
Save that for the X-Men podcast. I like it, though. I listen to it every week.
Me too, Matt.